field in turn 10 is P3. ReneRmotorsport is P3 with 60 kilos. David Kilsall is first. Best lap is a 1:10.031. Glen field in turn 10 is P2. Glen field is P2. Best lap is a 1:12.352. David Kilsall in turn 5, outer loop is P1. Robert Cormack from Scotland in turn 11 is P4. David Kilsall in turn 3, S's is P1. .85 minutes remaining in the session. ReneRmotorsport is P4. Robert Cormack in turn 2, S's is third. Best lap is a 2:39.517. ReneRmotorsport from England is P4. Robert Cormack in turn 2, S's is third. David Kilsall from England is first. Robertson is fourth. Jamil in turn 2, S's is P5 on standards. Rene Robertson is P2. Best lap is a 1:10.297. Glen from United Kingdom in turn 5, outer loop is P3. Rene Robertson in turn 11 is P2. Robert Cormack in turn 5, outer loop is P4. Best lap is a 1:12.859. Glen is P3. Best lap is a 1:11.399. .80 remaining in the session. Robert Cormack in turn 3, S's is fourth. Best lap is a 1:12.235. Jamil in turn 2, S's is P5. David Kilsall is P1. Best lap is a 1:09.402. Robert Cormack from Scotland in turn 4, S's is fourth. Best lap is a 1:11.096. Glen in turn 5, outer loop is P3. Best lap is a 1:11.057. Jamil is P5. Rene Robertson in turn 2, S's is P2. Best lap is a 1:09.922. Jamil in turn 1, the 90 is P5. Rene Robertson is P2 with 60 kilos. Robert Cormack is P4. Jamil is 5th. Best lap is a 1:11.631. David Kilsall is first. Best lap is a 1:09.082. "75 minutes remaining in the session." Rene Robertson in turn 4, S's is P2. Jamil in turn 2, S's is 5th. Rene Robertson is second with 60 kilos. Jamil is P5. Rene Robertson is P2. Jamil in turn 5, outer loop is third. Best lap is a 1:10.923. Rene Robertson is P2. David Kilsall from England in turn 3, S's is P1. Best lap is a 1:08.883. Rene Robertson in turn 2, S's is second. Dominic Singenden from Netherlands is P6 with 20 kilos. John Anonymous from New Zealand is P7 with 80 kilos on standards. Robert Cormack is P5. "70 minutes remaining in the session." David Kilsall in turn 2, S's is first. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is P2. Robert Cormack is 5th. David Kilsall in turn 4, S's is P1. Brian Patterson from Scotland in turn 2, S's is 6th. Robert Cormack is 5th. David Kilsall is P1. Brian Patterson in turn 3, Esses is 6th. Best lap is a 5:33.086. David Kilsall in turn 1, the 90 is first on standards. Rene Robertson is 2nd. David Kilsall is 1st. Rene Robertson in turn 11 is 2nd. "65 minutes remaining in the session." Robert Cormack is P5. John Anonymous is 7th. Robert Cormack in turn 1, the 90 is P5. Brian Patterson in turn 1, the 90 is 9th with 20 kilos. Robert Cormack in turn 10 is 5th. Dominic Singendonk is P6. John Anonymous in turn 3, S's is P6. Best lap is a 1:11.217. Robert Cormack in turn 10 is 5th. David Forsyth from Ireland is 9th on standards. Glen Field is P5. David Forsyth is P9. Robert Cormack is 7th. "60 minutes remaining in the session." Brian Patterson is 9th. Best lap is a 2:53.998. David Forsyth in turn 10 is 6th. Rene Robertson in turn 3, S's is 3rd. Jamil Rogers in turn 2, S's is 5th. Dominic Singendonk in turn 2, S's is 2nd. Best lap is a 1:09.467. John Astrup from New Zealand in turn 4, S's is P4. Best lap is a 1:10.506. Brian Patterson is P9. Jamil Rogers is 6th. Brian Patterson from Scotland is P9. ReneRmotorsport-Assetto is 3rd. Jamil Rogers is P6. David Forsyth in turn 1, the 90 is 4th. Best lap is a 1:10.108. Glen Field is 7th. Jamil Rogers in turn 3, S's is P6. 55 minutes remaining in the session. David Forsyth is 4th. ReneRmotorsport-Assetto is P3 with 60 kilos. Brian Patterson is 9th. Robert Cormack in turn 5, outer loop is P8. Dominic Singendonk in turn 5, outer loop is P2. Robert Cormack in turn 3, S's is 8th. John Astrup from New Zealand is P5. Best lap is a 1:10.298. Dominic Singendink in turn 5, outer loop is 2nd. Brian Patterson is P9. Dominic Singendink is 2nd. John Astrup from New Zealand is 5th. David Forsyth in turn 3, S's is 4th. 15 minutes remaining in the session. John Astrup is P5. Rene Robertson in turn 4, S's is 3rd. John Astrup from New Zealand is 5th. Robert Cormack in turn 5, outer loop is 8th. John Astrup in turn 3, S's is P5 with 80 kilos. Rene Robertson is 3rd. John Astrup is P5. David Forsyth in turn 10 is 5th. Rene Robertson is 5th. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is P4. Best lap is a 1:09.707. Rene Robertson in turn 1, the 90 is 5th. David Forsyth from Ireland in turn 3, S's is P3. Best lap is a 1:09.424. "45 minutes remaining in the session." Rene Robertson in turn 10 is 5th. David Forsyth is P3. Rene Robertson in turn 4, S's is 5th. John Astrup is P4. Best lap is a 1:09.488. Glen Field in turn 3, S's is 6th. Best lap is a 1:10.302. John Astrup is 4th. David Forsyth is 3rd. Rene Robertson is 5th. Jamil Rogers is P7. Best lap is a 1:10.730. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is 3rd on standards. Rene Robertson in turn 2, S's is 5th. Dominic Singendink in turn 2, S's is 2nd. Best lap is a 1:09.363. Rene Robertson in turn 11 is 6th with 60 kilos. 40 minutes remaining in the session. David Forsyth is 3rd. Brian Patterson is P9. Rene Robertson is 6th with 60 kilos. Brian Patterson in turn 2, S's is 10th. Rene Robertson is P6. Jamil Rogers in turn 10 is P7. Glen Field is P5. Best lap is a 1:09.840. Jamil Rogers is 7th. Brian Patterson in turn 11 is P10. Dominic Singendonk in turn 11 is 2nd. John Astrup in turn 2, S's is P4. Best lap is a 1:09.336. Dominic Singendonk in turn 5, outer loop is P2. Best lap is a 1:09.204. "35 minutes remaining in the session." Martin Mol from Netherlands in turn 5, outer loop is 9th with 10 kilos on standards. Best lap is a 1:10.749. John Astrup in turn 3, S's is P4 with 80 kilos. Brian Patterson is 7th with 20 kilos. Best lap is a 1:10.531. Martin Mol in turn 5, outer loop is 9th. Brian Patterson is 7th. Martin Mol in turn 4, S's is 9th. Brian Patterson in turn 3, S's is P7. Dominic Singendonk in turn 5, outer loop is P2. Martin Mol is P9 on standards. David Forsyth in turn 11 is third. Robert Cormack in turn 3, S's is 10th. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is third. Best lap is a 1:09.278. Dominic Singendink in turn 2, S's is second. "30 minutes remaining in the session." Martin Moll in turn 2, S's is P9 on standards. Brian Patterson in turn 5, outer loop is 7th. David Forsyth is P3 on standards. Martin Moll is 4th. Best lap is a 1:09.314. Max Shepherd from United Kingdom in turn 1, the 90 is 11th with 100 kilos on standards. Best lap is a 2:14.200. David Kilsall from England is P1. Best lap is a 1:08.646. The qualification session is at Watkins Glen in Watkins Glen, USA. John Astrup from New Zealand is first with 80 kilos. David Kilsall from England in turn 2, S's is P2. John Astrup in turn 10 is P1. David Kilsall is second. David Forsyth from Ireland is P4. Robert Cormack from Scotland is third. David Kilsall is provisional pole with a 109.145. David Kilsall in turn 1, the 90 is first. Martijn Mol from Netherlands in turn 3, Esses is P9 with 10 kilos on standards. Robert Cormack in turn 1, the 90 is third. Brian Patterson from Scotland is 6th with 20 kilos. Glen Field from United Kingdom in turn 3, Esses is 7th with 40 kilos on standards. Martijn Mol is P8. Rene Robertson from England in turn 1, the 90 is P4 with 60 kilos on standards. Martijn Mol from Netherlands is P8. Ten minutes remaining in the session. Dominic Singendink from Netherlands is P9. Jamil Rogers in turn 1, the 90 is P8. Jamil Rogers is up 0.78 in turn 5, outer loop. Jamil Rogers is up 0.29 in turn 11. Jamil Rogers improved his P9 with a 1:11.312, 2.167 off pole. The race session is at Watkins Glen in Watkins Glen, USA. David Kilsall from England is first. John Astrup from New Zealand is P2 with 80 kilos. David Forsyth from Ireland is P3. Martijn Mol from Netherlands is fourth with 10 kilos. Dominic Singendonk from Netherlands is fifth. Glen Field from United Kingdom is sixth with 40 kilos. Brian Patterson from Scotland is seventh with 20 kilos. Rene Robertson from England is P8 with 60 kilos. Jamil Rogers is P9. Robert Cormack from Scotland is P10. Max Shepherd from United Kingdom is P11 with 100 kilos. David Kilsall is first. "30 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. John Astrup is second. Martijn Mol is P3. Dominic Singendonk is fourth. Glen Field in turn 5, outer loop is P6. Jamil Rogers is 8th. Jamil Rogers is now 7th. Rene Robertson is P8. Rene Robertson lost 8th to David Forsyth. David Forsyth is 9th, 0.1 ahead of Max Shepard. David Forsyth lost P9 to Max Shepard. John Astrup is P3, 0.1 ahead of Dominic Singendon. John Astrup passed Martin Moll for P2. Martin Moll is 3rd, 0.1 behind John Astrup. Dominic Singendon is 4th, 0.1 behind Martin Moll. Jamil Rogers is 7th, 0.3 behind Brian Patterson. Max Shepard in turn 2, S's on lap 3 is P8, 0.5 behind Jamil Rogers. Rene Robertson from England is P9, 0.2 ahead of David Forsyth. Rene Robertson lost P9 to David Forsyth. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is 10th, 0.1 behind Rene Robertson. David Forsyth is now 9th. Dominic Singendon in turn 11 is 3rd, 0.3 behind John Astrup. Dominic Singendon is now 2nd. John Astrup in turn 1, the 90 is P3. Best lap is a 1:11.019. 0.529 off the fastest lap. Martin Moll in turn 4, S's is 4th, 0.2 behind John Astrup. Rene Robertson is 8th. Best lap is a 1:11.523. 1.033 off the fastest lap. Martin Moll is 3rd. Best lap is a 1:11.083. 0.593 off the fastest lap. John Astrup is P4, 0.2 behind Martin Moll. "25 minutes remaining in the session. Jamil Rogers in turn 1, the 90 is P8, 0.2 behind Rene Robertson. Jamil Rogers entering the pits is 11th. Robert Cormack is 9th. Martin Moll is 3rd, 0.1 behind Dominic Singendon. Martin Moll passed Dominic Singendon for 2nd. Dominic Singendon is P3, 0.2 behind Martin Moll. John Astrup in turn 11 is 4th, 0.5 behind Dominic Singendon. Jamil Rogers exiting pits. Max Shepard in turn 1, the 90 is 6th, 0.5 behind Glen field. John Astrup from New Zealand in turn 4, S's is P4, 0.2 behind Dominic Singendink. John Astrup passed Dominic Singendink for P3. Dominic Singendink from Netherlands in turn 5, outer loop is 4th, 0.2 behind John Astrup. Max Shepherd in turn 10 is 6th with 100 kilos, 0.2 behind Glen field. David Forsyth from Ireland in turn 10 is 9th, 0.4 behind Robert Cormack. Robert Cormack is 9th battling David Forsyth. John Astrup from New Zealand is P4, 0.1 behind Dominic Singendink. Robert Cormack is 9th, 0.4 behind David Forsyth. Max Shepherd on lap 7 is P5, 0.3 behind Glen field. John Astrup in turn 2, S's is 6th, 1.2 behind Max Shepherd. Max Shepherd is P5, 0.1 ahead of John Astrup. Max Shepherd lost 5th to John Astrup. John Astrup in turn 5, outer loop on lap 8 is 6th battling Max Shepherd. Max Shepherd in turn 10 is P5 with 100 kilos, 0.3 behind Glen field. John Astrup is P6, 0.4 behind Max Shepherd. Max Shepherd in turn 3, S's is P5. Best lap is a 1:10.109. 0.300 off the fastest lap. 20 minutes remaining in the session. John Astrup is 6th, 0.4 behind Max Shepherd. Max Shepherd is 5th, 0.3 behind Glen field. John Astrup in turn 11 is P6, 0.4 behind Max Shepherd. Max Shepherd in turn 1, the 90 is 5th, 0.2 behind Glen field. John Astrup in turn 4, S's is 6th with 80 kilos, 0.4 behind Max Shepard. Glen Field in turn 5, outer loop is 5th, 0.3 behind Max Shepard. Glen Field passed Max Shepard for 4th. Max Shepard in turn 10 is 5th with 100 kilos, 0.1 behind Glen Field. John Astrup is 6th, 0.4 behind Max Shepard. Glen Field in turn 2, S's is P5, 0.2 ahead of John Astrup. Martin Moll in turn 5, outer loop is P2, 0.4 behind David Kelsall. John Astrup in turn 5, outer loop is 6th battling Glen Field. Martin Moll is P2 with 10 kilos, 0.1 behind David Kelsall. David Kelsall is P2. Best lap is a 1:09.819. 0.191 off the fastest lap. Glen Field in turn 2, S's is P6 with 40 kilos, 0.3 behind John Astrup. David Kelsall on lap 12 is 2nd, 0.9 behind Martin Moll. Martin Moll was 0.6 faster last lap. Glen Field in turn 10 on lap 12 is 6th, 0.5 behind John Astrup. Max Shepard in turn 2, S's is 4th, 0.8 behind Dominic Sinjenden. Glen Field in turn 5, outer loop is P6, 1.0 behind John Astrup. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Max Shepard in turn 11 is 4th, 0.6 behind Dominic Sinjenden. Glen Field from United Kingdom in turn 2, S's is 6th, 1.0 behind John Astrup. Max Shepard in turn 5, outer loop is P4, 0.5 behind Dominic Singendonk. Dominic Singendonk from Netherlands is 4th, 0.1 behind Max Shepard. Glen Field is P6, 1.8 behind John Astrup. Dominic Singendonk on lap 15 is 4th, 0.1 behind Max Shepard. Glen Field from United Kingdom is 6th, 1.3 behind John Astrup. Dominic Singendonk is 4th, 0.5 behind Max Shepard. David Forsyth in turn 3, S's is 8th, 1.4 behind Rene Robertson. David Forsyth was 1.7 faster last lap. Glen Field is 6th, 1.2 behind John Astrup. David Forsyth is P8. Glen Field in turn 3, S's is P6, 0.5 behind John Astrup. David Forsyth is 8th, 0.4 behind Rene Robertson. David Forsyth passed Rene Robertson for P7. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is P8, 0.2 behind David Forsyth. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Glen Field is 6th, 0.7 behind John Astrup. Rene Robertson is 8th, 0.4 behind David Forsyth. David Forsyth was 1.0 faster last lap. Glen Field in turn 5, outer loop is 6th with 40 kilos, 0.8 behind John Astrup. Rene Robertson in turn 11 is 8th, 1.2 behind David Forsyth. Glen Field is 6th, 0.4 behind John Astrup. John Astrup in turn 5, outer loop is 5th, 0.5 ahead of Glen Field. Glen Field is 6th, 0.3 behind John Astrup. John Astrup in turn 1, the 90 is 5th, 0.5 ahead of Glen Field. Glen Field in turn 4, S's is 6th, 0.3 behind John Astrup. John Astrup in turn 5, outer loop is 5th, 0.3 ahead of Glen Field. Glen Field in turn 10 is 6th, 0.3 behind John Astrup. John Astrup is 5th. Best lap is a 1:10.079. 0.802 off the fastest lap. Glen Field is P6, 0.4 behind John Astrup. John Astrup is P5, 0.4 ahead of Glen Field. Glen Field from United Kingdom is P6, 0.3 behind John Astrup. 5 minutes remaining in the session. John Astrup in turn 3, S's on lap 22 is 5th, 0.3 ahead of Glen Field. Glen Field is P6 battling John Astrup. Glen Field passed John Astrup for P5. John Astrup is 6th with 80 kilos, 0.1 behind Glen Field. Glen Field is 6th battling John Astrup. John Astrup in turn 3, S's is 5th. Glen Field is 6th, 0.5 behind John Astrup. John Astrup in turn 11 is 5th, 0.5 behind Dominic Singendon. John Astrup is now P6. Dominic Singendon entering the pits is 9th. Max Shepard in turn 4, S's is 3rd, 1.9 behind David Kelsall. Max Shepard was 0.9 faster last lap. John Astrup is P6, 1.3 behind David Forsyth. Dominic Singendon exiting pits. Max Shepard in turn 1, the 90 is P3, 1.6 behind David Kelsall. John Astrup in turn 2, S's is P6, 1.8 behind David Forsyth. Max Shepard from United Kingdom in turn 10 is 3rd, 1.4 behind David Kelsall. John Astrup in turn 11 is P6, 1.2 behind David Forsyth. Max Shepard from United Kingdom is 3rd, 1.2 behind David Kelsall. John Astrup in turn 5, outer loop is 6th, 1.3 behind David Forsyth. Max Shepard is P3, 0.5 behind David Kelsall. Max Shepard was 0.9 faster last lap. David Forsyth from Ireland in turn 3, S's is 5th, 1.4 behind Glen Field. The leader has just finished the race. Martin Moll finished P1. Dominic Singendonk finished P10. Robert Cormack finished P8. David Kilsall finished P2. Max Shepard finished 3rd. Glen Field finished P4. David Forsyth finished P5. John Astrup finished P6. Rene Robertson finished P7. Jamil Rogers finished 9th. The race session is at Watkins Glen in Watkins Glen, USA. David Kilsall from England is first. John Astrup from New Zealand is P2 with 80 kilos. David Forsyth from Ireland is third. Martijn Mol from Netherlands is P4 with 10 kilos. Dominic Singendonk from Netherlands is 5th. Glen Field from United Kingdom is 6th with 40 kilos. Brian Patterson from Scotland is 7th with 20 kilos. Rene Robertson from England is 8th with 60 kilos. Jamil Rogers is 9th. Robert Cormack from Scotland is P10. Max Shepherd from United Kingdom is 11th with 100 kilos. David Kilsall is 1st. Minutes remaining in the session. Race start. John Astrup is P2. John Astrup is now P3. Brian Patterson is 5th. Glen Field is 6th. Glen Field passed Brian Patterson for 5th. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is 8. Rene Robertson is now P9. John Astrup is P11. Glen Field in turn 11 is P8. Jamil Rogers in turn 2, S's on lap 2 is P5 battling Dominic Singendonk. Brian Patterson from Scotland in turn 4, S's is 6th, 0.2 behind Jamil Rogers. Glen Field exiting pits. Dominic Singendonk in turn 5, outer loop is P4, 0.5 behind Max Shepherd. Max Shepherd on lap 2 is 3rd, 0.4 ahead of Dominic Singendonk. Glen Field entering the pits is 11th. Dominic Singendonk is 4th, 0.2 behind Max Shepherd. David Kilsall is P2, 0.5 behind Martijn Mol. Rene Robertson entering the pits is P10. Dominic Singendonk in turn 4, S's is 4th, 0.4 behind Max Shepherd. David Kilsall is second, 0.5 behind Martijn. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is 7th. Best lap is a 1:23.858. 8.244 off the fastest lap. The race session is at Watkins Glen in Watkins Glen, USA. David Forsyth is P4. John Astrup is P1. Robert Cormack from Scotland is P2. David Kilsall from England is 3rd. David Forsyth from Ireland is 4th. Martijn from Netherlands is P5 with 10 kilos. Dominic Singendink from Netherlands is 6th. Glen Field from United Kingdom is P7 with 40 kilos. Brian Patterson from Scotland is 8th with 20 kilos. Rene Robertson from England is 9th with 60 kilos. Jamil Rogers is 10th. Max Shepherd from United Kingdom is P11 with 100 kilos. John Astrup from New Zealand is P1 with 80 kilos. "30 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Martijn is 5th. Martijn is now P4. John Astrup is P3. Dominic Singendink is P4. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is P6. John Astrup in turn 10 is 3rd. John Astrup entering the pits is 6th. Max Shepherd from United Kingdom is P4, 0.1 behind Dominic Singendink. Brian Patterson entering the pits is 8th. Max Shepherd passed Dominic Singendink for P3. Dominic Singendink in turn 2, S's is P4, 0.3 behind Max Shepherd. John Astrup exiting pits. Brian Patterson exiting pits. Martijn in turn 5, outer loop on lap 2 is 2nd, 1.0 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson in turn 11 is P5, 0.7 behind Dominic Singendink. Martigan in turn 4, S's is second, 0.8 behind David Kelsall. Rene Robertson from England in turn 5, outer loop is P5, 1.2 behind Dominic Singendink. Max Shepard on lap 4 is third, 0.9 behind Martigan. John Astrup in turn 1, the 90 is 9th with 80 kilos, 1.3 behind Glen Field. Max Shepard on lap 4 is third, 0.7 behind Martigan. John Astrup in turn 10 is P9, 1.0 behind Glen Field. 25 minutes remaining in the session. Dominic Singendink from Netherlands is P4, 0.7 behind Max Shepard. John Astrup in turn 5, outer loop is 9th with 80 kilos, 1.0 behind Glen Field. David Forsyth from Ireland in turn 10 is P7, 0.5 behind Robert Cormack. David Forsyth was 2.4 faster last lap. Robert Cormack is P7, 0.2 behind David Forsyth. John Astrup in turn 4, S's is P9, 1.0 behind Glen Field. Glen Field is P8, 0.8 behind Robert Cormack. John Astrup is 9th, 0.7 behind Glen Field. Glen Field in turn 2, S's is 8th, 0.2 behind Robert Cormack. John Astrup is 9th, 0.1 behind Glen Field. John Astrup is now 8th. Martin Mol from Netherlands is 2nd, 1.6 behind David Kilsall. John Astrup from New Zealand in Turn 1, the 90 is 8th, 0.5 behind Glen Field. Glen Field is 8th. Best lap is a 1:10.590. 1.453 off the fastest lap. John Astrup in Turn 5, outer loop is P8, 0.3 behind Glen Field. Jamil Rogers in Turn 11 is 10th, 0.5 behind Robert Cormack. Jamil Rogers passed Robert Cormack for P9. 20 minutes remaining in the session. John Astrup is P8. Glen Field is P8. John Astrup is P8 battling Glen Field. John Astrup was 0.6 faster last lap. Glen Field is P8 with 40 kilos battling John Astrup. Martin Mol is 2nd, 1.3 behind David Kilsall. Glen Field in Turn 5, outer loop on lap 10 is 8th battling John Astrup. Martin Mol in Turn 4, Esses is 2nd, 1.7 behind David Kilsall. Glen Field in Turn 3, Esses on lap 11 is P8, 0.7 behind John Astrup. Martin is second, 1.8 behind David Kelsall. Glen Field is 8th, 1.2 behind John Astrup. Jamil Rogers in turn 3, S's is P9, 1.1 behind Glen Field. Jamil Rogers was 0.7 faster last lap. Martin in turn 1, the 90 is P2. Best lap is a 1:09.168. 0.031 off the fastest lap. Jamil Rogers in turn 11 is 9th. Martin is second, 1.1 behind David Kelsall. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Jamil Rogers is P9, 0.1 behind Glen Field. Martin in turn 3, S's is P2, 0.9 behind David Kelsall. Martin was 0.5 faster last lap. Jamil Rogers is 9th battling Glen Field. Jamil Rogers passed Glen Field for 8th. Glen Field entering the pits is P11. Martin in turn 11 is P2. David Forsyth in turn 11 is 6th, 3.3 behind Rene Robertson. Martin in turn 5, outer loop is second with 10 kilos, 1.0 behind David Kelsall. David Forsyth from Ireland in turn 5, outer loop is P6, 2.8 behind Rene Robertson. Martin in turn 2, S's is second, 0.3 behind David Kelsall. David Forsyth in turn 2, S's is P6, 2.5 behind Rene Robertson. David Forsyth was 0.6 faster last lap. Martin Moll is second, 0.1 behind David Kelsall. David Forsyth in turn 10 is P6, 1.8 behind Rene Robertson. Martin Moll in turn 4, S's on lap 17 is second, 0.4 behind David Kelsall. David Forsyth from Ireland is 6th, 1.4 behind Rene Robertson. Martin Moll in turn 11 is P2 with 10 kilos, 0.5 behind David Kelsall. Ten minutes remaining in the session. David Kelsall in turn 2, S's is P2 battling Martin Moll. Martin Moll is second battling David Kelsall. Martin Moll passed David Kelsall for first. David Forsyth is P6, 0.4 behind Rene Robertson. David Kelsall from England is second, 1.3 behind Martin Moll. David Forsyth is 6th, 0.4 behind Rene Robertson. Brian Patterson exiting pits. Max Shepard in turn 5, outer loop is third. Best lap is a 1:09.151. 0.014 off the fastest lap. Glen Field exiting pits. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is 6th, 0.5 behind Rene Robertson. David Forsyth was 0.6 faster last lap. Max Shepard in turn 3, S's is third, 0.7 behind David Kelsall. David Forsyth is 6th, 0.3 behind Rene Robertson. Brian Patterson entering the pits is 10th. Rene Robertson is 6th battling David Forsyth. Brian Patterson exiting pits. Max Shepard in turn 1, the 90 is P3 with 100 kilos, 0.8 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson in turn 1, the 90 is P6, 0.8 behind David Forsyth. Max Shepard in turn 10 is P3, 0.7 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson is P6 with 60 kilos, 1.3 behind David Forsyth. Max Shepard on lap 22 is P3, 0.2 behind David Kilsall. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Rene Robertson is 6th, 1.7 behind David Forsyth. David Forsyth was 0.9 faster last lap. Max Shepard is P3, 0.3 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson is 6th. David Kilsall in turn 5, outer loop is P3, 0.2 behind Max Shepard. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is 6th with 60 kilos, 3.1 behind David Forsyth. David Kilsall in turn 1, the 90 is P3, 0.5 behind Max Shepard. Jamil Rogers entering the pits is 9th. Rene Robertson in turn 1, the 90 is 6th, 3.3 behind David Forsyth. David Kilsall is P3, 0.3 behind Max Shepard. Rene Robertson is 6th with 60 kilos, 3.7 behind David Forsyth. David Forsyth was 0.7 faster last lap. Jamil Rogers exiting pits. David Kilsall in turn 3, Esses is third, 0.3 behind Max Shepard. Max Shepard from United Kingdom is third, 0.1 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson is 6th, 4.6 behind David Forsyth. Rene Robertson is now P5. David Kilsall is P3. David Kilsall lost 4th to Rene Robertson. David Kilsall lost 5th to John Astrup. Rene Robertson is P4, 3.6 behind David Forsyth. John Astrup is 5th with 80 kilos, 4.8 behind Rene Robertson. Rene Robertson in turn 11 is P4, 3.8 behind David Forsyth. John Astrup is 5th, 3.8 behind Rene Robertson. The leader has just finished the race. Martin Moll finished first. Glen Field finished 11th. David Kilsall finished 6th. Brian Patterson finished P8. Jamil Rogers finished 9th. Robert Cormack finished P7. Dominic Singendonk finished 2nd. David Forsyth finished P3. Rene Robertson finished P4. John Astrup finished 5th. The race session is at Watkins Glen in Watkins Glen, USA. Glen field from United Kingdom is P1 with 40 kilos. Jamil Rogers is second. Brian Patterson from Scotland is third with 20 kilos. Robert Cormack from Scotland is P4. David Kilsall from England is P5. John Astrup from New Zealand is P6 with 80 kilos. Rene Robertson from England is P7 with 60 kilos. David Forsyth from Ireland is P8. Dominic Singendink from Netherlands is 9th. Martijn Mol from Netherlands is P10 with 10 kilos. Max Shepherd from United Kingdom is 11th with 100 kilos. Glen Field is P1. Minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Jamil Rogers is P2. Jamil Rogers is now third. Rene Robertson is P4. John Astrup in turn 4, S's is P5. Max Shepherd in turn 5, outer loop is P6. Dominic Singendink in turn 10 is P7. Dominic Singendink is now 4th. John Astrup is P5. Robert Cormack is 8th battling Rene Robertson. Robert Cormack passed Rene Robertson for P7. Rene Robertson in turn 4, S's is 8th, 0.2 behind Robert Cormack. Jamil Rogers in turn 5, outer loop is P2, 0.3 ahead of David Kilsall. Brian Patterson is P7 with 20 kilos, 0.2 behind Robert Cormack. Brian Patterson passed Robert Cormack for 6th. Robert Cormack is P7, 0.4 behind Brian Patterson. Max Shepherd in turn 3, S's is P3, 0.3 behind Jamil Rogers. Dominic Singendink entering the pits is 11th. Robert Cormack is 7th, 0.5 behind Brian Patterson. Jamil Rogers is P2, 0.1 ahead of Max Shepard. Dominic Singendon exiting pits. Max Shepard is P3 with 100 kilos, 0.1 behind Jamil Rogers. David Forsyth is P8, 0.5 behind Robert Cormack. Max Shepard in turn 4, S's is third with 100 kilos, 0.1 behind Jamil Rogers. David Forsyth is P8 battling Robert Cormack. David Forsyth was 1.0 faster last lap. David Forsyth passed Robert Cormack for 7th. Robert Cormack is 8th, 0.3 behind David Forsyth. Jamil Rogers is second battling Glen. Jamil Rogers passed Glen for first. 25 minutes remaining in the session. Jamil Rogers is now second. Jamil Rogers is now P7. Glen is 9th. Jamil Rogers entering the pits is 10th. Brian Patterson is P4, 0.3 behind Rene Robertson. David Kilsall from England is 8th, 0.5 behind Martijn Mol. Brian Patterson on lap 6 is 4th, 0.2 behind Rene Robertson. Jamil Rogers exiting pits. David Kilsall in turn 3, S's on lap 6 is 8th, 0.7 behind Martijn Mol. Brian Patterson in turn 5, outer loop is P4, 0.1 behind Rene Robertson. Martijn Mol in turn 10 is P7, 0.5 behind Robert Cormack. Martijn Mol was 1.9 faster last lap. David Forsyth is 5th, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. Robert Cormack in turn 2, S's is P7, 0.1 behind Martijn Mol. David Kilsall is P8, 0.4 behind Robert Cormack. Robert Cormack in turn 5, outer loop is 8th, 0.2 behind David Kilsall. Brian Patterson in turn 11 is 4th with 20 kilos, 0.5 behind Rene Robertson. Brian Patterson passed Rene Robertson for 3rd. Rene Robertson from England in turn 1, the 90 is P4, 0.1 behind Brian Patterson. Brian Patterson was 0.7 faster last lap. David Kilsall in turn 4, S's is P7. Best lap is a 1:10.210. 0.557 off the fastest lap. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is 4th. Best lap is a 1:11.268. 1.615 off the fastest lap. David Kilsall on lap 8 is P7, 0.3 behind Martijn Mol. David Forsyth is P5, 0.2 behind Rene Robertson. "20 minutes remaining in the session. David Kilsall in turn 2, S's on lap 9 is P7, 0.4 behind Martijn Mol. Martijn Mol is 7th. Best lap is a 1:10.827. 1.174 off the fastest lap. Rene Robertson from England in turn 11 is 4th, 0.7 behind Brian Patterson. Martijn Mol is P7, 0.7 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson is 4th, 0.4 behind Brian Patterson. Martijn Mol is P7, 1.6 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson in turn 1, the 90 on lap 11 is P4, 0.5 behind Brian Patterson. Rene Robertson passed Brian Patterson for 3rd. Brian Patterson in turn 4, S's is P4, 0.4 behind Rene Robertson. Rene Robertson in turn 5, outer loop is 4th. Best lap is a 1:10.550. 1.021 off the fastest lap. Rene Robertson is now 3rd. Brian Patterson is 5th, 0.2 behind David Forsyth. Martin Moll is 7th, 1.3 behind David Kilsall. David Kilsall in turn 4, S's is 6th, 0.5 behind Brian Patterson. Brian Patterson in turn 5, outer loop is 6th battling David Kilsall. David Kilsall in turn 11 is P5, 0.4 ahead of Brian Patterson. David Forsyth is P5 battling David Kilsall. David Forsyth lost P6 to Martin Moll. "15 minutes remaining in the session. Brian Patterson is P5, 0.9 behind David Kilsall. Martin Moll in turn 10 is P6. David Kilsall in turn 2, S's is 4th, 1.5 behind Rene Robertson. Martin Moll in turn 5, outer loop is 6th, 1.5 behind Brian Patterson. Martin Moll was 1.0 faster last lap. David Kilsall is P4, 1.3 behind Rene Robertson. Martin Moll from Netherlands in turn 2, S's is P6, 1.5 behind Brian Patterson. David Kilsall is 4th, 1.3 behind Rene Robertson. David Kilsall was 0.6 faster last lap. Martin Moll in turn 10 is 6th, 0.3 behind Brian Patterson. Jamil Rogers entering the pits is P11. David Kilsall in turn 2, S's is 4th, 0.5 behind Rene Robertson. Martignol in turn 4, S's is P6, 0.4 behind Brian Patterson. Martignol passed Brian Patterson for 5th. Brian Patterson in turn 5, outer loop is 6th, 0.2 behind Martignol. Jamil Rogers exiting pits. David Kilsall from England is P4, 0.5 behind Rene Robertson. Martignol in turn 1, the 90 on lap 17 is P6, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. Max Shepard on lap 17 is P2, 0.1 behind John Astrup. David Kilsall in turn 5, outer loop is 4th, 0.4 behind Rene Robertson. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Martignol is P6 battling Brian Patterson. Max Shepard is 2nd, 0.1 behind John Astrup. Max Shepard was 1.2 faster last lap. David Kilsall in turn 3, S's is P4. Best lap is a 1:09.369. 0.149 off the fastest lap. Martignol is P6 with 10 kilos, 0.4 behind Brian Patterson. Glen in turn 3, S's is P9. Best lap is a 1:10.499. 1.279 off the fastest lap. John Astrup from New Zealand is P2, 0.4 behind Max Shepard. Martignol is P6, 0.5 behind Brian Patterson. John Astrup is 2nd, 0.3 behind Max Shepard. Martignol is P6, 0.1 behind Brian Patterson. David Kilsall from England in turn 10 is 4th, 0.5 behind Rene Robertson. Dominic Singendonk entering the pits is P10. Martignol in turn 11 is P6, 0.3 behind Brian Patterson. David Kilsall in turn 2, S's is P4, 0.2 behind Rene Robertson. Martignol in turn 4, S's is P6, 0.4 behind Brian Patterson. Rene Robertson is P4, 0.4 behind David Kilsall. Martin Moll is P6, 0.1 behind Brian Patterson. David Forsyth in turn 10 is P8, 0.8 behind Robert Cormack. Martin Moll in turn 4, S's is 6th, 0.3 behind Brian Patterson. David Forsyth in turn 2, S's is 8th. Best lap is a 1:10.086. 0.866 off the fastest lap. Martin Moll is P6, 0.3 behind Brian Patterson. Five minutes remaining in the session. David Forsyth in turn 5, outer loop is P8, 0.3 behind Robert Cormack. David Forsyth was 1.1 faster last lap. Martin Moll is 6th, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. Robert Cormack is 8th battling David Forsyth. Martin Moll in turn 5, outer loop is 6th, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. Robert Cormack from Scotland is P8, 0.2 behind David Forsyth. Robert Cormack passed David Forsyth for P7. Martin Moll in turn 1, the 90 is P6. Best lap is a 1:10.026. 0.806 off the fastest lap. Glen is P8, 1.7 behind Robert Cormack. Brian Patterson in turn 5, outer loop is P6. Best lap is a 1:10.097. 0.877 off the fastest lap. Brian Patterson passed Martin Moll for 5th. Martin Moll in turn 11 is P6 battling Brian Patterson. Glen in turn 10 is P8, 1.5 behind Robert Cormack. Martin Moll on lap 24 is 6th, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. David Forsyth in turn 4, S's is P9, 1.0 behind Glen. Martin Moll is P6, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. David Forsyth in turn 11 is 9th, 0.9 behind Glen. Martin Moll in turn 5, outer loop is P6, 0.2 behind Brian Patterson. Brian Patterson is 6th. Brian Patterson passed Martin Moll for 5th. Martin Moll on lap 26 is P6, 0.4 behind Brian Patterson. David Forsyth from Ireland is 9th, 0.4 behind Glen. Glen is P9, 0.1 behind David Forsyth. Glen passed David Forsyth for 8th. Martin Moll is P6 with 10 kilos, 0.1 behind Brian Patterson. Glen in turn 5, outer loop is 8th, 0.5 behind Robert Cormack. Rene Robertson in turn 4, S's is P4 with 60 kilos, 0.5 behind David Kilsall. Rene Robertson was 4.4 faster last lap. The leader has just finished the race. Max Shepard finished P1. John Astrup finished P2. David Forsyth finished P9. Jamil Rogers finished 10th. David Kilsall finished P3. Rene Robertson finished P4. Brian Patterson finished 5th. Martin Moll finished P6. Robert Cormack is 7th. Glen passed Robert Cormack for P7. Robert Cormack finished P7. Glen finished P8.